A German car, German design, German engineering, German build quality. Well, no, the badge on the nose may say BMW, but the Z3 is solely made in Spartanburg, America, to Germany's high standards. But BMW is not the only European car manufacturer to realize that you need sometimes to make cars out of Europe to keep costs down for the huge US market. Volkswagen's new Beetle is made in Mexico, and Mercedes M-Class off-roader is manufactured in Alabama, which is where we sent Brendan Coogan to find out more.
Well, you can cut that music for a start. Leave it. Yes, I may be in the deep south of the good old US of A, but there's going to be no scenes from Deliverance here today. Yes, I'm in Alabama to have a look at Mercedes' brand new venture, the M-Class, the vehicle that they believe is going to take on the Discoveries, Range Rovers and Explorers of the world in the very lucrative sports utility vehicle market. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, is this the market leader that everybody's predicting, or is it just another 4x4 with acres of room and a set of sporty alloys? There's only one way to find out. Let's have a drive. By the way, if you do see any canoes or dodgy men with moustaches, be sure to give us the nod, because tonight I don't want to be squealing like a pig. Let's go.
Imagine a woman with all the style and elegance of Audrey Hepburn, coupled with the obvious talents of Victoria Principal. Throw in a little of the muscle and power of the Ewing Corporation, and well, you've created a monster or the perfect woman. Well, it's a little like what Mercedes are attempting to do here with the M-Class. They're trying to marry the traditional values of a Mercedes, build quality, refinement and style, with the attributes of a sport utility vehicle, ruggedness, cargo room and ground clearance. A difficult challenge in anyone's book, and the fact that it's entirely built and assembled here in Alabama, and Mercedes have given themselves a tall order indeed.
Oh, shut up. Here we go, this is it. The M-Class. This is the V6 3.2 model with 3 valves per cylinder and 2 spark plugs, which Mercedes say gives it very clean emissions. Well, as you can see, it's a very stylish car. It's got Mercedes written all over it, really. Well, it would do, wouldn't it? And it's quite a cumbersome big fella. Got a big feeling, very big tyres, very wide. I could talk all day, but I'll tell you what, the temperature is into the high 90s now, and I'm very hot. And inside there is air conditioning. Guess where I'm going?
I do hope you understand me getting back into the air-conditioned interior of the Mercedes. You see, I've been brought up on English winters, not Alabama summers, where climate control is leaving the window slightly ajar to get rid of the condensation.
This 217 brake horsepower version of the M-Class gives adequate, if not excessive, pulling power. Remember, I'm still talking about the engine, provided of course you want to go in a straight line. Mid-range torque is there, but it's not immediate, so if you want to overtake, then plan ahead. On some of Alabama's steeper hills, you might find yourself struggling for power, but as most of the roads are straight, like everywhere else in America, and you just need that 40 to 60 range, you'll find the M-Class more than adequate. The handling of the M-Class is rather predictable for a 4x4 made in America. In and out of corners there is roll, but as I'm from Manchester, I'll just roll with it.
The obvious danger with the concept of this car is that it'll end up being a jack of all trades but a master of none. It's essentially trying to be several cars rolled into one. However, that's the car's best quality. It is a jack of all trades. I mean, if this car was called Jack, then it'd be a competent plumber, handy in the garden, in fact very versatile all around the house.
If you're a Mercedes fan, then you'll love the M-Class. It's Mercedes through and through. There's leather and walnut everywhere inside the cabin, although I have to say some parts of the plastic dash I find a bit tacky. But in terms of equipment, it's absolutely loaded. It's more loaded than Richard Branson the morning after he's won a rollover on the National Lottery. There's air conditioning, a brilliant stereo, loads of things. It's brilliant.
But seriously, along with the air conditioning and integrated stereo, you do get the usual Mercedes level of specification. Electrical seats, electric windows, full leather interior, and all those airbags are standard.
If Inspector Gadget had a car, he'd have an M-Class. And if all that wasn't enough, these seats are as comfortable as Jimmy Savile's armchair. With the elevated driving position, what the PR like to call the commanding view position, you do feel safe in the M-Class. Visibility is very good, although the front pillars are slightly irritating, and the rear angular pillars seem unnecessarily large, creating possible blind spots, but safe you are. With front, passenger and side airbags, it means that if you do get involved in the wacky races, you're going to be in the equivalent of the executive bouncy castle. Well, the M-Class certainly feels like a Mercedes, but is it built like one? I went along to their new factory in Alabama to see for myself. And here it is, the brand new state-of-the-art Mercedes plant in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Inspired by BMW and Spartanburg, Mercedes have decided to base the whole of their M-Class operation here, using local labour and personnel, but Stuttgart design and work practices. Remember, inside there are 1,450 team members, with no captains or managers. It's the largest squad that Man United could ever manage. And remember, there are no executive dining facilities here and no executive car parking places. So, if you're an exec and thinking of working for Mercedes, I'd go somewhere else. Let's go inside. In January 1993, Daimler-Benz announced their intention to build what was to become known as the M-Class, so far 0 on the Richter scale. However, it was 3 months later that Benz announced it was going to build its new car in North America. It was at this point that automotive shockwaves started to register. America is home to the largest market for sport utility vehicles, so it makes sense to build a vehicle where you're going to be selling most units. But the decision wasn't just economical. The proposed plant posed engineering questions.
The paint shop in Mercedes-Benz factory is pressurised, so they've got what's called an air shower, which means any contaminants on me are apparently blown off by this air shower. I prefer just to wash and go myself.
Apparently that's an engine. No, it is. That's the V8 that apparently is coming out in spring 1999. You saw me in the V6 the other day. That was powerful. This baby generates even more horsepower. Brilliant! Could Daimler-Benz use German work practices with a North American workforce? And could they get that workforce to apply European build quality standards to the new vehicle? The answers to these and other questions seem to be becoming clearer. The car I drove had done nearly 20,000 miles and had presumably been put through its paces by some quite cynical hacks, but it did seem to be bearing up well, certainly better than me in the Alabama heat. $300 million investment with a $40 million extension, an awful lot of team members, 1,450, and even more team wear. And at the end of the production line, 300 M-classes per day. That's 65,000 units per year. An awful lot of work, an awful lot of statistics, but I think you'll agree, certainly worth it. The M-Class. Okay, we've already seen the M-Class on the roads, and impressive it was. However, to see what it can really do and have some fun, it's time to off-road, or as the boys say, day 2, let's off-road. This off-road course has been purpose-built by Mercedes to display the strengths of the M-Class, so obviously it's not going to incorporate any gradients or obstacles that the car can't handle. But nevertheless, the challenges posed here are still considerable. Hills steeper than you'd find in most national parks, and puddles deeper than anything even a rainy week in Manchester could provide. Okay, talk me through it, Trevor.
Now here on this down here, you're going to wait till all 4 wheels touch the ground, ease on through, and then release the brake at your leisure, and the engine braking will take it. No worries.
No worries, he says.
No worries.
Good Lord.
Right.
Right. This is terrific fun. We don't have hills like this in Manchester, but good fun nonetheless. Right, I want brake, accelerator here, yeah?
Accelerator here, definitely. And
gas.
Again, anytime the wheels start to slip, steady acceleration, pull you out every time.
Steady acceleration.
Steady acceleration, about 2,000 RPM.
2,000 RPM, and no problem.
No problem. A little different from some four-wheel drive systems.
Okay.
It takes a little getting used to, but it's really user-friendly.
This is the ETS that Trevor's talking about. Basically, there's 3 differentials, and if even 3 wheels start to slip, as much of the power as possible goes to that 4th wheel by applying a brake to the other 3 wheels. Was that about right?
Brilliant.
Good. I was paying attention in that
That's
lecture.
Right, you sure were. This slope going down through the woods, there's no need to brake at all.
No?
It's relatively extreme, but the engine brake will take care of it, holding it down.
It certainly does.
Should be no worries.
Okay, to avoid driving error, like just back there, do talk me through it. If you think I'm going to miss a turn, do tell me.
Okay, you're doing great.
Thank you very much. I bet you say that to all the crap drivers you have.
Okay, this is the torsion articulation test. So first and foremost, the front left and right rear tire are going to be spinning. So the ETS will detect that these tires are spinning, add ABS brakes to them, build up the torque, which will transfer to the other tires and pull us right through here, just like so. Beautiful. Now here in the middle, you can run into some problems, but in other vehicles, but in the M-Class, again, steady.
Just tell me power or brake.
Steady acceleration, say no worries. The vehicle does it for you. That was brilliant.
Oh dear, that was the bit I was worrying about. Trevor's giving me the full SP and I just want to know power or brake. This is the most fun I've had recently while still keeping my clothes on. It is absolutely terrific. You can keep your roller coasters, you can keep your candy and your steak. Just try and get yourself on an off-road course because this is terrific. Big toys for big boys! Okay, Simon Oldfield, Mercedes-Benz UK. We've just been enjoying some of the more obvious virtues of the M-Class. What do you see as the other strengths of the car?
Well, I think the other major strength that this car has over its competition is the on-road performance. The refinement, the smoothness is everything you would expect from a Mercedes-Benz saloon, but you're getting it in a 4x4 vehicle. This is largely because of the 4 ETS system. It means that you don't need things like locking differentials that add weight and noise and reduce the performance on-road of most 4x4s.
It certainly flatters drivers into thinking they're a better driver than they are. It certainly did with me. The ETS is very good. What do you see as the car's main competitors in the UK?
Well, I think it's a case of the usual suspects. The Range Rover and Land Rover Discovery, obviously the domestic competitors in this market. The Grand Cherokee and Cherokee models from Chrysler are very good. And also the Ford Explorer and Toyota models, the Land Cruiser, Colorado and Amazon, and also the Mitsubishi Shogun that's been in the UK market for quite a while.
The car, the entry price is just a shade under $32,000. Do you think that's competitive?
I think it's very well priced. It's somewhere between the Grand Cherokee and the Range Rover models. And I think when you match up the specification, the performance, it offers the best value in the market.
And as we've seen, the M-Class is being built here in this tremendous plant in Alabama, soon to be supplemented by the plant in Austria. What can you say to customers to reassure them that actually this is, in every sense, a Mercedes?
Well, I think the important thing is who it's made by, and the car is designed and made by Mercedes-Benz. The plant was designed by Mercedes-Benz, and the fact that it's built in Alabama, which is in the US, which is the biggest 4x4 market in the world, just makes a lot of sense. And I think customers have come to expect that from a lot of products, not just in the automotive industry, that it's the provenance of the manufacturer and the designer that's the most important thing.
Okay, but then again, you would say that, wouldn't you?
They pay my bills.
And quite significantly, you're twisting your arm up your back as you said it. Thank you, Simon. Cheers. All things considered, the M-Class performed well on and off-road, and it is great fun. So if you've got £32,000 to spend and want a refined sports utility vehicle, then my advice is certainly to give the M-Class a test drive. It could well bring a smile to your face.
But if a US-made Mercedes is not your cup of tea, Chris Goffey drives the good old British revised Land Rover Discovery after the break.
A deserted Highland glade in North Scotland, the perfect setting, you might think, for Land Rover's new Discovery, monarch of the glen, master of all it surveys, or so the advertising and marketing hype would have you believe. Actually, it's probably more at home dropping the kids off at school in Surbiton and going on to tackle the wilds of the Sainsbury's car park. But this is the mad 4x4 marketing scene, where reality takes a second place to the myth of off-roading. And you think by buying a vehicle like this, you're granted the freedom of the wilderness. Land Rover always like to get the most out of their body tooling. After all, Current Defender doesn't look that different from Series 3 Land Rover from 25 years ago. The Range Rover was introduced in 1969 and went for almost 20 years before it was changed. Now we've got new Discovery, just under 10 years from the original launch. But though the vehicle looks the same, make no mistake, this is an entirely new vehicle from the wheels up. New Discovery is longer and wider with a wider rear track, and there's lots more space in the back for the 6th and 7th seats, which are now forward facing with clever headrests that swing down from the roof. Surprise, surprise, it's going to be more expensive, but the major changes are under the skin. First surprise, under the bonnet there's a new diesel engine, and it's not a BMW. It's a 5-cylinder, 2.5 litre new diesel engine developing 136 brake horsepower and a massive 232 pounds-feet of torque. But more importantly, it delivers that torque really low down in the rev range. There's 80% available from just 1300 revs and 90% available from 1450 RPM. Now, you might think that's technical gobbledygook, but it's very important to Discovery owners who tow, because so many of them have heavy boats or caravans and horse trailers, and that means you can move away from rest without slipping the clutch or struggling with low range. But when you do decide to emulate the adverts and the articles in the car magazines in your brand new 4x4, and you find somewhere in this crowded island where you can go off-road, it's a situation that I must say is heavily frowned upon by the ramblers, the horse riders and the mountain bikers. Well, then you get into a seriously high-tech scene in the new Discovery. In the first place, the steering has been changed to avoid kickback and fight on rough surfaces. The rear suspension is now self-leveling with air springs, and that means that you can raise the height of the vehicle when you're going over rough ground. And the vehicle will also automatically sense when the middle of the car is grounded and the rear wheels are spinning, and it'll raise the back end automatically. There's a new anti-lock braking system that works really well off-road, and a thing they call electronic traction control, so that the traction to the wheels is done electronically and not by a viscous coupling, and that removes the need for a lockable central diff. And there's also a thing called hill descent control. Press a button and the vehicle will automatically maintain a speed of between 4 and 7 miles an hour, depending on gear, down the steepest hill. Now, it's not doing it through engine braking, it's automatically giving braking effect to front and rear axle to get the maximum possible grip. And that is a very safe system indeed. Roger, you've been driving off-road for more hundreds of years than I care to remember, but I mean, this vehicle seems very sophisticated, lots of electronic gizmos. Do we really need them?
Well, I wouldn't put it down as electronic gizmos. What we're trying to do is make the vehicle more user-friendly. How many times have you been with colleagues or other people driving off-road when they've struggled to find the centre diff lock, or they've struggled to find low range? Instead of having a lever that moves in several directions, as a transfer lever does on Land Rover products, we've got a forwards and a backward movement. We've got low range, we've got high range, and that's all you have to worry about. The electronic traction control will look after the rest. The hill descent will help you descend hills, even if you're not used to selecting first gear. So I think we've made the car user-friendly, even if we have used electronics to make it work easier for people.
If it's Friday, it must be Northumberland and the launch of the new Vauxhall Frontera. Now, how many times have you heard a manufacturer claim that their new vehicle, which looks to all intents and purposes exactly the same as the old one, is in fact totally new from the wheels up? Well, Vauxhall have joined that club. Let's open the box and see what they've got in store for us. Let's face it, this is much more of a re-engineer of Frontera than a brand new design from a clean sheet of paper, and don't run away with the idea it's the merry men from Luton who are responsible for it. As with so many things in General Motors nowadays, this is a worldwide concept. It's sold in America as the Isuzu Rodeo, On some world markets it's even badged as a Honda, and of course it's sold in Japan as an Isuzu and in Europe as an Opel. So what have they done to the Frontera? Well, they say it's an all-new body shell and every panel is changed, though I can't see it myself. The back no longer comes off this sport version, and there's no soft top at the back either, but inexplicably the rear roll bar still remains. It's there for street cred, according to the brand manager. Mechanically, there's new engines. The transmission is modified to give you selection of four-wheel drive on the move at speeds up to 60 miles an hour. The car is lighter by 150 kilograms, and Vauxhall claim it's much quieter, up to 50% quieter. That'll be good news for regular Frontera drivers. Ride and handling relatively good on this short wheelbase sport version, though I have to say the long wheelbase estate seemed to float and wallow far too much and yet be harshly sprung. Classic case of under-damping. New rack and pinion power steering, though, is light and very precise with no fight back at all, certainly on the road or cross-country. Vauxhall's specially built off-road course proved no challenge at all to the Frontera. We proved it was possible to get all the way round without resorting to low range or four-wheel drive, which rather defeated the point of the whole exercise. However, it did demonstrate good ground clearance, axle articulation, and in the short wheelbase version, decent entry and exit angles, with the wheels closer to the extremities of the vehicle. But despite running on compromised suburban tyres as opposed to cross-country knobblies, the ability of the Frontera to grip and climb was impressive. Perhaps the company's claim that simple rear-wheel drive with optional four-wheel drive plus high and low range is actually better off-road than sophisticated electronics to control hill descent and traction has some merit after all. Vauxhall say that the weight saving they've made in the body shell hasn't compromised the strength in any way. Don't like the way this rear wheel vibrates when you shut the door though. The Vauxhall and the Isuzu engineers have undoubtedly done a very good job of refining and developing what was originally rather a flawed product. Frontera today is faster, smoother, quieter and better riding than the old vehicle. But the opposition hasn't exactly stood still in the intervening 8 years since its launch. Has it caught up? Well, frankly, I think it's still got some way to go.